Welcome back, everybody, to a live show edition of the Prospect Profits, which I feel like we've done less of, but we're there on the tailgate show on Saturdays. Anyways, back here on a Thursday to talk a little bit about one of the deepest classes in the 2022 NFL Draft, the edge rusher or pass rusher, whatever you want to call it, class here. It is tremendously deep. Just going through this, I mean, there is so many players that are probably going to make an impact on an NFL roster. We'll get into that real soon. But as always here, Prospect Profits presented by Sports Illustrated and NFL Draft Bible. Here with Lorenz Line-Veba, my co-host as always. Lorenz, how you doing this morning?
Yeah, I'm
or
doing
not even
great.
this morning for you.
Yeah, I mean afternoon. We were just getting into the time zones and winter time, and I'm all confused, but I'm hanging in there. But you're right. Talk about this edge class. It's a really deep class, and it's good at the top. I think it's got a lot of future playmakers
Right.
here, a couple of brand guys, and just a really good group of players for a position that's a premium position. Because if you can rush the passer, if you can get after the quarterback, we know how much easier that makes for your defense, how much harder that makes for opposing quarterbacks. It's always funny when people are like, hey, how do you stop Tom Brady? It's like, well, you apply pressure. It's like, yeah, right. I mean, that's how you beat everybody, right? But it's a really fun class, and I'm glad that I feel like it's been a long time that it's just been me and you on a live show. So how are you doing today, man?
Dude, I'm doing good. I know. I feel like we haven't been doing, obviously with live shows, we'll start to pick up a little bit more as we get into draft season. Now we've, been more so waiting for this content to come in. And now we've got I guess, plenty of it within, I think we're going into week 10 of college football at this point. Season is coming to a close real soon. But yeah, excited to talk about this class. And now, before we were going into this, was like, because I have not been as diligent in watching my players this year. And I was like, I don't know if I could do it. And I was just like, the draft junkie in me was like, yeah, I could get five rankings here or top five. But before we get into this top five, because it is a great class and probably the number one player in the nation in this draft is going to come from this class. But let's talk about the class in general. Like we've discussed that it's deep, but why don't you go into just quickly, like, how deep are we talking with this class?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talent on day one and day two. I think even going into day three, there are going to be guys that get discovered that are already on the radar. There are going to be players that we talk about today, and I think we both talk about 8. There are obviously going to be some ones that don't match up or whatnot, but there's going to be talent way into the later rounds of this draft, which is really rare to see. And there are players really that depending on what you need. If you need a big defensive end, we'll talk about George Karlaftis. There are those twitched up DPR type rushers, designated pass rushers, like Adam Anderson out there at Georgia. We'll get into them. There are guys that are the complete package, like Kayvon Thibodeau. There are guys that fit any scheme. If you like more of the 34 type defense, if you run more of 43, I know a lot of it's nickel nowadays anyways, so a lot of it is interchangeable, but there's still differences in responsibilities at each position. But there's a lot of depth. There are a lot of good seniors. I think it's going to be really exciting to see who these all-star games bring in, because those are going to be some fun matchups against those offensive tackles for really whether that's talking Senior Bowl, PA Bowl, Shrine Bowl. There are going to be a lot of players there that are going to be really interesting to watch, but also the underclassmen. I mean, it's just a loaded group. There's talent everywhere, and there are going to be guys outside this top 5 that have a good shot at potentially going the first round. So let's get into it.
Yeah, no, it is plenty of fun watching this class, just some of the guys we've gotten to see so far. But yeah, let's get into it here. We got, we'll start it off with you. Who, I think that we'll start off with 1, because I don't think there's going to be any question. I think this one should be one of the most consensus things in all the 2022 draft. Lorenz, who's the number 1 edge on your board?
Yeah, it's Kayvon Thibodeau over at Oregon. he's the complete package. I mean, he was elite going into the season. I think he's gotten even better, gotten even stronger, gotten even more consistent, more decisive with his pass rush moves. Obviously, has been out for a little bit there with injury, but I think his progression through the years really shows what a talent he is. He was already very good as a freshman, but mainly on a speed track. Now you're talking last year, the improvements come. He can really beat you anyway, whether that's going bull rush or speed to power, going right through you, countering inside. I think his hands have continued to get better. They're violent hands. And this year, he's just honed in his craft a little bit more, just gotten at all the things that he was doing last year. He's just been doing a tick better, and that's just made him even more explosive and even more unblockable. I think he's going to be someone that comes into the league you don't think about. He's going to be that top 10 type pass rusher. Mm-hmm. I think midway through his rookie season, and I don't want to put too high of expectations on him, but that's really how good I think Kayvon Thibodeaux is. Top 10 lock, top 5 lock, whatever you want to say. I think he's got a good chance to be the first overall pick, depending on how his pre-draft process goes, what the team needs that's going to be picking there. There are obviously some questions there. Don't want to speak in absolutes, but he's a very good prospect. There we go. And over out there at Oregon, and 5-star recruit, 3 years of dominance, and now he's going to take it to the NFL very soon.
Yeah, I mean, there isn't too much more to add to the kid. I mean, we could have a full show about Kayvon Thibodeaux, but he is my edge one as well. And it brings up the interesting point of kind of when Myles Garrett came out, how even if quarterback is your need, this kid is such a difference maker on the defensive end that this still might end up being the first pick, and especially in a year where quarterback really isn't certain. You know, we don't have any certain quarterbacks, and this is not a quarterback show, so we're not going to get into it. But this kid has a legit and might be the odds-on favorite to go number 1 right now, and I would not be shocked. There is so much flash in his game. There's so much improvement in his game, and there's the most exciting part is how dominant he is now. When you watch him, you see areas in his game where he's going to get even better as he grows and gets older. I think isn't he 21? Like, he's only 21 right now. This kid at 28, 29 years old is going to be it's going to be sickening watching him in the league if he's not on your favorite team or if he's in your favorite team's division, I should say. It is gross, but why don't you get into your edge 2 right here?
Yeah, I'm going to go with George Karlaftis, maybe going against the grain a little bit, not because I don't like Aiden Hutchinson, but I just think he offers or he has offered consistently. He's bigger than Hutchinson, but I don't really want to get into that comparison too much, but he's a different type player. He's a big end that really, I think, has very impressive athleticism, whether we're talking get off, whether we talk functional strength, really is such a good power rusher who has just demanded so much attention from offensive lines. I mean, he's double and triple teamed on that Purdue defensive line every single game because you just can't block him one-on-one. And I think that has hurt us. That has hurt, obviously, his stats a little bit, but I don't think it takes away from how good of a player George Karlaftis is. I think if he slimmed down a little bit, if a team needs him and wants him to do that, that would unlock a little bit more athleticism. He's never going to be the pure bend the corner type guy, but I think his hand usage is borderline elite. He wins quick with that type hand usage. He can beat you inside as well. I mean, we're just talking about very good players here. Is why I don't want to compare too much, but George Karlaftis right now is sitting there at number 2 for me. It's not completely safe. I think testing and a couple of those things are going to measure into it, but the length and also the run defense ability that he has, I think he's just a complete package outside of that pure speed rush. But I think his athleticism really gets sold short a little bit in this class right now. I think he's a very good athlete at that size.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. He does get sold short, and I'm not going to have him at my edge 2, but he's certainly going to come up very quick in these rankings. I've got Aiden Hutchinson, and the reason being because it's the type of improvement that he had from last year to this year. Obviously, I know last year he barely played with that injury, but something that I didn't think would happen. He slims down, and he is just so explosive off the edge right now. And this is, when he when you're looking at past years of Aiden Hutchinson, I wouldn't even have sat there and said that explosiveness is the greatest trait that he had. And now you look at it, and his get off is. I've seen some stills right now of just him. They take a snapshot right as the ball is snapped, and he is so far and away past anyone else that it's so hard for a team to really manage that. It doesn't matter how fast your tackle is or how quick-feeted your tackle is. He has been so dominant this year. He has been truly a bright spot for Michigan, which obviously they've had a great season, but he is that recovery, and then he slims down, and I think it just fits him so much better at this new weight that, would I have put him here last year? Absolutely not. If he came out last year, I would not have had him ranked anywhere close to this high, but in a deep class, he has jumped it. And I mean, so much to say on that. And now at this new weight, it excites me to project him forward because he hasn't been playing here. He hasn't been improving here. And now you give him this opportunity with an NFL coach to improve at this basically whole new player. It's really is. I mean, he took what he had from more of a 3 to 5 tech rusher inside, and now he's on that like more 5 to 7 tech rusher track, and he took that physicality and kept it and added it with explosiveness and speed. It is going to be really hard to cover this kid at the next level, and this is no slight to George Karlaftis, who will come up again very soon. I think Karlaftis is phenomenal, and you're right. He's gotten slighted because of really on Purdue. Who else are you gonna? You might as well give all your attention to him. But I think what Hutchinson has done this year is really impressive.
I'll just follow up because he's my number 3 here in this class. And you're right. Going into the season, I thought we were looking at someone who had good hand usage, was an excellent run defender, good power rusher. He could do a lot with his bull rush, push in the pocket, and driving offensive linemen. But I didn't see the type of explode. And then he was coming off an injury, but he slimmed down, as you said. He did what I think maybe George Karlaftis can do with that frame, unlock more of that athleticism that I just wasn't totally sure was there. But, man, it is. And he's just added that element to beat you with speed, to beat you with converting speed to power, to beat you with a quick inside move on top of the great hands that he had already, on top of the very good run defense. He's doing a great job right now taking what tackles give him, which is something that you have to do at the NFL level. If you don't rush with a plan against these NFL offensive tackles, they'll shut you down. He's doing a great job of forcing oversets, of taking in if offensive linemen give him the chest, he's doing a great job of converting speed to power. Hey, if they leave the outside shoulder open, he can get around there, use that length, use his hands. He reminds me a little bit, and I don't think he's at the level yet, but he reminds me a little bit of the Bosa brothers coming out, in the sense that good athletes, but not elite athletes, but how they really win is their intelligence, is their feel for how to rush the passer, their angles, their hand usage. And that's high praise. Those two guys are obviously elite. Joey and Nick, elite NFL pass rushers. I think that's what Aiden Hutchinson can be. And he's had a great season so far. And we just talk about we're getting into my third guy. I think all 3 of these guys are potential top 15, top 20 selections, if not higher than that. So Aiden Hutchinson over at Michigan, he's put together a great season. I think deservedly so, considering a top 5 of this great class.
Absolutely. And getting into my third here is just talking about George Karlaftis, and this is the first flop that we'll have. But Karlaftis here is a phenomenal player that, again, like you said, top 50. I think all 3 of these guys are going to end up top 15 on my board when all said and done. Obviously, there's a lot more watching of players to be done, but I think all 3 of these guys are going to end up top 15, and all 3 will end up with first round grades from me. And Karlaftis is definitely taken a hit this year with his stock, or shouldn't be, but has, just because of the sheer attention that he's gotten. But when you go back to his last season's tape, it's dominance, absolute dominance. And you're right. I do think that there's a little bit of athleticism that he's not unlocking yet, that he hasn't really gotten to yet. And for NFL teams, that's got to be really enticing. They got to be foaming at the mouth to be able to get him in the building and really unlock some of the athleticism that he hasn't. And this kid is going to have a really good shot at being phenomenal in the league. I won't get too much more into him because we've already talked about him. But why don't you get into your fourth guy right here?
Yeah, this my guy has been my guy since the summer. I know a lot of the people following me and following the show are gonna know about Trayvon Walker out there, Georgia. Not the most productive of the Georgia defensive linemen, not the one with the most sacks, but I think if you talk about traits, if you talk about a guy who's 6'5", 6'6", who's 275, who's got excellent length on him, who's someone who really I don't have the official measurements. We're going to be getting him if he comes out at the combine this year, but there are not a lot of guys that can match his length in the SEC, and he's got inside out versatility. I think he's such a good athlete. I mean, if you just sometimes you see him getting off the ball and you're just thinking, wow, that weight 275, 280 just shouldn't get off like that. Like that should just not be possible what he's able to do. The pads are a little bit high at times. You know, there's still a couple of things to iron out. I think they stunned him a lot in that defense, which doesn't really suit his game. But he's still getting home. He's still generating pressure. Now they're dropping him into coverage. If you watch that Florida game, he used that length. He used that athleticism to tip that pass that was then intercepted, I think, by Nolan Smith, just showing how freaky of an athlete he is. Obviously, on that defensive line, there's a lot of mouths to feed. I would really like to see him stunt less, just get him, just give him a chance to go one-on-one with a couple of these offensive linemen, because I don't think they can block his power when he gets going, and when he gets that long arm in the chest of offensive linemen. He's damn near unblockable. So Trayvon Walker, I just think it is a bit of a gamble. It is a bit of a gamble on upside. But if you look at what is working in the NFL, what NFL teams like, just speaking of what Trayvon Walker can be in a role that suits him a little bit better, I think it's one of the better defensive linemen in the league. And then he can reduce inside if you've got more speed type rushers. We know Adam Anderson on his own team. On third down, Walker can reduce inside, rush over guards, get Adam Anderson with that pure speed coming around the corner, because he's never going to be that type guy that's going to dip the shoulder and bend around. But I think he's got dominant traits, he's got special traits, and he's going to get drafted accordingly.
Yeah, and let's not even transition here, because that's who I've got here, and this is all credit to you in the summer scouting cycle where you put him on my radar. And obviously Georgia's defense has been great enough where there was going to be a lot of tape watched on them anyways. But from what I've seen so far this year, with the ideal size this kid has, the athleticism that he has, there's really no reason why he can't be or there can't be a defensive coordinator in the league that falls in love with this kid. And it's you mold him into what you want him to be, because he is so good at so much of the game, or he has the body to at least be so good at so much of the game, and he has put it on display here at Georgia. Now, not to knock this kid at all, because obviously he ends up number 4 here on my rankings in a very deep class, but I do think that there's a lot of attention to be given to a lot of players on Georgia, which definitely helps. Adam Anderson, Jordan Davis, there's a lot of players on this Georgia defense, but he's still proving dominance against some really good competitors in the SEC. So Trayvon Walker, deservingly so, ends up in the top 4 for both of us, and I'm very excited to see him get with someone really creative at the next level, because this kid should be used in a lot of creative roles.
Yeah, you scout the traits, and there are a few guys that have more than Trayvon Walker. Right. But let me get into my 5th guy, Myjai Sanders for Cincinnati, who aren't a top 4 team in the country, which that's a topic for another day. But the Bearcats, they've been putting together 2 consecutive great seasons there. And Sanders, I think, is the real deal coming off the edge. There were some weird spring measurements where he was measuring in the 220s. I think the explanation was he got home during COVID. He didn't nutrition the way that they would have wanted him to. And but he's up to 250. I don't think there's any issue there. He's looking great. If he gets into an NFL nutrition program, if he gets NFL money, that should be a little bit easier for him to maintain that playing weight and to maintain his 250 pounds, which, yeah, he's going to play at. I think he's another guy who's really athletic, who is long, who can I keep saying this, but these are guys that can beat you any which way. You can get beat. He can beat you around the outside shoulder. Not the super most bendy guy, but plenty of flexibility to do that. If you don't get off quickly enough, he'll beat you like that. He can go through you. I think he's been continuously getting better at converting speed to power. He's got a really nice push pull move, which I love to see. If you go back to that Georgia game last year, he was killing guys with it, and just consistently getting home using that move. And I think his hand usage is continuously improving, just like you would expect. He came back for another season. I think he's gotten better. He's improved his draft stock, and he's another player who I just don't see getting out of the first round. I mean, how does a team not look at what Jay Sanders puts on the field, how dominant he is week in and week out, and the attention that he has to get in college because he's so good, because he won't block him one-on-one. How does he not get drafted somewhere in the mid to late first round? So just a loaded group. We're getting to the fifth guy. I think Jay Sanders is another first-round player. He's a senior, so we're going to see him in a couple of these pass rushing drills at All-Star games, which is going to be so much fun to watch. I mean, that's going to be one of the biggest names out there in the All-Star game circle. But Alec, getting to your fifth guy, because same deal. He's going to be out there at an All-Star game and going to be showing his talent.
No, absolutely. And Jay Sanders is a great pick. I think he'll definitely end up in the top 8 of my class. There's no disrespect to him. I think you're right. I think he could end up in the first. I won't be talking about him later because I want to get some other names out there. But Adam Anderson from Georgia. I know 2 Georgia guys in the top 5, but let's be real, this is going to be pretty prevalent for their defense, having a lot of guys in high up in rankings here. But Adam Anderson, to me, very twitched up, slight, but twitched up guy off the edge. Love that kind of pass rusher with that kind of outside track that he can bring. Now, my problem with Adam Anderson is I really don't think that he fits in it's a big law. But I don't think that he fits in any defense. So that's a concern. Obviously, he's an outside track pass rusher, but I think he does it so well. You look at, like, not to make a comparison between the two, but a guy from Georgia last year, Azeez Ojulari, he kind of filled that role for them after Ojulari had left. And I think that Adam Anderson can do that at a high level at the next level. Now, of course, I do think that an NFL nutrition program is going to want to put some weight on him. And I don't think he needs a ton. I think it's just a little bit, and he's going to have to become, more reliable in things other than pass rush. But I think he has abilities to do it. And there are definitely flashes of him being able to do it. He's just, he's going to have to put it all together at the next level. But I think when you talk about traits and what you're scouting, there's not many that can do it like Adam Anderson has. And I can't wait to get into a final eval for him and get all of his tape from this year to go through, because I've just seen flashes so far, and I loved what I've seen so far.
Yeah, I'll just get right into my honorable mentions because he's on there. Guys that would have probably been on here any other year, just with such a loaded class. I'm not having him on there. I mean, I could add a lot more names to this list. I might have even forgotten about someone just because this class is so good. But these were a couple of guys I wanted to talk about as well. And Adam Anderson on there. I think the concern with him is, I mean, he is 6'5", but he's just 230. So he's never going to be someone who gets heavy usage on first down, who's going to play the run a lot. But if you watch him rush the passer, which it's a passing league, we keep hearing that a lot of these guys out there throwing 50 passes a game right now in the NFL. A guy like him is going to have plenty of chances, because I don't think there's anyone better at winning on an outside track than Adam Anderson. He is super quick off the ball. He's very explosive. He's flexible, and he can bend the corner. But what is really impressive is he gets tackles to hurry their process to when they have to set vertically, and then he attacks them, converting speed to power. So for a guy that's 230 pounds, he's doing a great job of implementing that in his game as a pass rusher, not a one-trick pony. And I think if we weren't grading run game, but we're just grading the passing game, he would grade out a lot higher for me, maybe in that top 3 range, because I think as a pure pass rusher, he might be the most gifted in the class. with Kayvon Thibodeau. I really do think that highly of his pass rush ability. Just not going to be an every down player, but he's also a really good special teamer. If you watch these Georgia games, kick coverage, punt coverage, he's always down there. So that's something that shouldn't be discounted. I think Adam Anderson is going to be special coming off the edge. He's just not going to get the every down impact that you would want from a defensive end, from an outside linebacker edge type guy. Should I just go into? Yeah, I'll just run through my honorable mentions. Zach Harrison next over at Ohio State. I think he's a little more straight line, which has hurt him. I was hoping for him to take a bit more of a step, but he's a great athlete, at least in a straight line. I don't think he's the most flexible guy. He's another guy who you talk about length, just talked about Trayvon Walker, those type of traits. I think he's Walker still is a little bit further down the road, but Harrison has similar things that he can do, just being longer than blockers, using that length to attack the chest. I wanted to see his hand usage improve. I wanted to see him become a little bit more consistent. It hasn't shown, but I'm still willing to bet on Zach Harrison's traits. I'm guessing somewhere on early day 2. Maybe you have to spend a first-round pick to go get this guy. He's not going to be the guy for you as a rookie, I don't think. But if you're bringing him in by his second, third season, I could see Zach Harrison being a quality defensive end for your football team. I think he's got all the tools you need to play the run. He can become a really good power rusher. Just little improvements, little tweaks to his game could really go a long way. And then someone who's been very good this season, someone who might have gotten onto this top 5 if I'd have done my due diligence and gotten into the 21 film of USC. But, still some time left, still some time to get these rankings right. Drake Jackson out there, he went through a transition last year where he went down to 250 pounds. He was playing in the 270s. I didn't really think it suited his game last year, but he's been a lot better this year. Now, I got to still deep dive. I got to have a look at what he's doing better this year. But someone who is also a very good athlete also brings that length. I feel like I keep repeating myself because these are just the traits that all these guys bring are just things that NFL teams consistently have coveted. I think he even brings, at that size, he brings a lot more bend, a lot more ability to dip his shoulder and win around the outside. You can really see it. Also, that twitch, that flexibility on a spin move that he does have. And he's been a more consistent threat as a pass rusher this season, which is great to see. I think Drake Jackson's another guy where you just look at traits, you look at how well he's going to test, you look at the size, the length, those things, and hey, edge is the one. There might be a couple other positions, but if there is a position where you want to bet on traits, to me, it's always the edge position because We've seen it in the past with guys where we said, hey, he might be a little bit raw, but special traits here. There's a good chance that these guys pan out. Now, it won't happen for everybody, and there's got to be some off-field betting, all these things going on, but I think Drake Jackson is another candidate. And like I said, I feel like I keep repeating myself. It could be a special pass rusher in the league with also some good run defense abilities.
Absolutely. And, I tried to put some different names on here than your honorable mentions, but Drake Jackson to me is just too good to leave off of this list. Now, these aren't my 6, 7, and 8 rankings. These are just guys who I like in this class, but Drake Jackson is 6. He is a guy who I had a hard time leaving out of the top 5. Now, I feel like Drake Jackson is more so fallen on my rankings because preseason he was 2. He's fallen on my rankings not because of his play, but because of the play of others. And that's, it's no slight to Drake Jackson. This is a guy who I can very much see going in the first round. And you already discussed him, and you're 100% right on the kid. So I'll move on here to Arnold Ebiketie, who's a guy who I liked preseason, and he has done very good for that Penn State defense. From what I've seen this year, haven't seen all their games. Obviously, I've seen a little bit of flash, but Arnold Ebiketie is a guy who, for me, really fit that 3-4 outside build where he could hit that flat real quick. He's quick and twitchy in that way and had the abilities to corner. I think that this is a kid who, when you're looking on day 2, you're going to be able to bet on his traits. Now, I believe he's a senior, so we should probably be seeing him at some sort of bowl game. My guess would be the Senior Bowl, potentially a PA Bowl, right? This kid, I think, to me, on day 2 is going to have a lot for teams to really like because I do think that not only did he make the jump from Temple to Penn State and not lose a beat, going from Temple to the Big Ten, but he also has some traits that you, again, really can bet on at that edge position. And then the other one is a guy who I really feel is a solid player, a guy who I'm very much fine on in that late day 2, early day 3 range as a rotational kind of pass rusher. But I really like what he brings to the table. Super physical guy, Sam Williams, who isn't going to jump out at you with really anything. I mean, I do think he's got the athleticism for the league. I don't think that he's I don't think that he's as refined in his pass rushing skills. Kind of, I don't want to say one trick pony, but really more so of a one. He needs to develop himself as a pass rusher a little bit more now. I don't know where that will come in. I'm guessing, getting him in with a defensive coordinator or position coach at the league that's really good at developing would be huge. But it's a kid who I really have, like, in small doses have really liked. And I'm just putting him on the rate. Not that he needs to be put on the radar from me, but just a guy who I wanted to mention here because I do think that this is a player who could make an impact in the league. I'm not sure, again, if he can ever be a starter in this league, but it's a guy who I can feel. I feel confident that he'll be in the league for many years, just backing up and rotationally pass rushing for a team.
I think he can start being completely honest, and it just shows how deep this class is. I mean, I think he's another guy who's taken a step this year going into the season. We said athleticism and power, it's there. Now, can you refine it? Can you be a little bit more consistent, be a little bit more consistently applying pressure on quarterbacks? And he's done that. So, yeah, it just speaks to how deep this class is. I think Sam Williams is another guy who I'm going to come away with a starter projection, which that's day 2 at least. So, yeah, I mean, great point in making this and making this depth of this class a point. I mean, there's so many more guys we could get into.
No, I mean, that was the hard part about especially the honorable mentions aspect to this is we're sitting there and who do you put on? Who do you put on the list? Try and get some. I just want to get some extra names on here, just some guys that I've liked, and I can't wait to dive into this class after the season because I really do feel like, most years, what do you have? Maybe 15 draftable grades for edge guys. I think I could have plenty more than that. And it's kind of scary because that's 8 right there. And that we're talked about, Sam Williams isn't even my 8th. I'm pretty sure he's probably going to end up like 10 to 12 in that range. And end of day 2, early day 3, there's still 3 rounds after that where teams are going to be taking edge rushers. So it's kind of insane how many players we might have or might see drafted here. It's an interesting class. If you're a team that needs an edge rusher, this is the class to really need it. So
go get it. Double up.
Oh yeah,
double up. Hey,
exactly.
If you're the Atlanta Falcons, 2 day 2 picks, you're probably getting good value with 2 day 2 picks. If you're spending them at edge, go get Jordan Davis round 1. Your defense is going to be a lot better. But
there's no excuses for teams who don't have edge rushers right now. You should be all over this class. You should not be leaving this class with any questions at that position. But that's all we got for today for the edge rusher class. Hopefully we can get more of these in where we start talking about these positions because, it didn't make sense to do it at the beginning of the season. But now that we've gotten a decent amount of tape in and seen some of these guys playing, it's going to be real interesting to start talking about these. And we're going to, of course, be doing another edge show at some point later down the draft cycle where we'll have our final edge rusher rankings. But for now, we'll leave it at that. Some guys that we're really liking so far. Lorenz, any final words before we get out of here?
No, I mean, just thanks so much for tuning in. I know we haven't been putting out as many live shows and as we are going to do in draft season. But let me tell you, man, draft season, it's right around the corner. We're in November now. It's already November 4th. I feel like that's crazy because I feel like it was just the 1st. But, time's flying right now. And draft season is going to be coming around quick. We're about to see some of these All-Star game invites That's going to be exciting. Going to be exciting to see who goes where. And then before we know, it's going to be the new year. We'll have the college football playoff, and then really soon, Alec, I know you'll be out there in Las Vegas and Mobile for the All-Star events. I'll be in LA for the PA Bowl, and then down in Mobile. We're going to be able to see these seniors. It's not that long. It's not that far out. It's not even 3 months away. So I can't wait. Draft season's coming up. Don't miss it, but blink or you'll miss it. And I'm just excited to get to talk about these guys for the next couple months here leading up to, I think it's April 28th, but I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, I believe it does start April 28th. I think it's
might be the 29th.
No, I think it's the 29th, 30th, and May 1st is the final day, or day 3 of the draft. But
that was last year. Hang on, I'm looking.
Was that last year?
Yeah.
Either way, excited, of course, for the next 5 months of grinding.
It's gonna be 28th, 29th, 30th. Yep.
Okay, so there you go.
Starts on a Thursday, right? Am I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thursday
okay.
nights.
I thought it was off. I thought it was off there. Yep. Right. So we got May 1st off. That's great.
There you go. Yeah. No, excited to talk about the draft for the next 5 months because it's going to get really exciting to really break down these prospects. It's a weird class this year. It really is. I feel like there's depth at some positions that we needed, and there's also at positions where really wish there was more depth or better players. But hey,
it's not the flashy position. It's not the quarterbacks,
exactly.
The running backs. I do think this wide receiver class has been better than advertised, but
yeah,
it's defense, it's edge rushers. We were just talking about them. It's corners. I think those are the positions where you can get some good players. Safeties, depending on who comes out, who declares. It's really a defense heavy draft, which is fun to see after last year was so offense heavy. When the first defensive player go, I think at number 8.
It was J.C. Horn. Was the first.
I can tell you that's not going to happen this year, which is fun.
Won't have to wait very long on draft day for Kayvon Thibodeau to hear his name called, or any defensive
or Kyle
player.
Hamilton, or Derek Stingley, or just goes.
There's going to be a lot of guys coming off the board
group.
early. The quarterback position is a little bit weak this year, but we'll be getting into that more. Stay tuned and watch us on Saturday for the tailgate show. We'll have Hunter Pitcoff on with us and Big Law. Kellen has his own game this weekend, so he'll be missing, but we'll get him back after that.
You want to hear Kellen's stat line from his last game?
Yeah, say it. I saw it on Twitter, but it was ridiculous.
Yeah, because the young man's a dual threat. Kellen Gerenstein had a great performance against Toledo this past weekend.
Mm-hmm.
He was 17 for 32 in the air. I'm sure we can work on that percentage a little bit.
Barely over
237 yards, 2 touchdowns, but now 14 times rushing on the ground for 159 yards and 3 touchdowns. Talk about a dual threat there from Baby Yoda 2.0. He's sort of I don't know. I guess Kyler Murray's the dollar store version of Kellen.
Probably, right? Yeah, it's Kellen, Gerenstein, Kyler Murray, and then maybe Tim Tebow on the greatest dual threats. Oh, I'm forgetting Lamar Jackson. Never mind. He's in.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I don't know where. I
don't know where I'm going.
Lamar's just a different tier. I refuse to put anyone as a rusher.
You're right.
I was too young for Mike Vick, so.
Yeah, I barely saw Mike Vick. I saw him in the NFL, but I barely saw him in college. But hey, that's all we got for today. So stay tuned Saturday. Watch Tailgate Show, and then we'll be back on Tuesday for another Prospect Profits podcast where we'll be talking about week 10, I believe, of college football and week 9 of the NFL. And then also Inside the Film Room with Lorenz and Kellen next week. Stay tuned for that. Is it coming out this week still too? Or it already
there's a defensive player edition. I haven't tweeted out yet, but we got the offensive seniors, where we're talking about a couple of the best seniors at each position. Offensive and defensive edition is out right now. So go subscribe, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I think pretty much wherever you can get podcasts. And if you need it somewhere else, go shoot me a DM. Be like, hey, why aren't your shows on? I don't know, some other podcast platform or provider that they should be on, and I'll have a look at it. But thanks for the shout out. I appreciate that.
Of course. I love the Inside the Film Room. I'm actually a couple episodes behind, if I'm being honest with you. Time has been a little bit. I got to catch up. You're right. But hey, go tune into that, and we will see you guys on Saturday. Thank you.